All right, let's see how sharp you really are. Today, we're testing your knowledge of something that becomes dramatically more complicated the moment a business crosses a border. Governance in multinational companies. 10 questions, no hints, no second chances. I'll give you the statement. You decide, fact or fiction. Some will sound obvious, some will sound completely wrong, and some are designed to catch you out. Think fast, trust your instincts, and keep score because this one gets tricky. Ready? Let's test your knowledge. Question 1. Here's your first statement. A multinational company can use exactly the same governance policies in every country where it operates. The answer is fiction. A multinational organization can absolutely establish global governance principles, but applying exactly the same rules everywhere can be impossible and sometimes even inappropriate. Why? Because different countries can have different corporate laws, employment requirements, data protection regimes, financial regulations, reporting obligations, board requirements, regulatory expectations, and industry-specific rules. A global policy might therefore establish the organization's minimum standard while allowing local procedures or supplements to address country-specific requirements. The challenge is maintaining enough global consistency to protect the organization without ignoring legitimate local differences. That balance is one of the central challenges of multinational governance. Question 2. Next statement. If a global company policy conflicts with mandatory local law, employees should normally follow the global policy because it applies across the entire organization. The answer is fiction. A company cannot normally override mandatory legal requirements simply by creating an internal global policy. Where mandatory local law applies, the organization needs its governance framework to accommodate that requirement. That doesn't necessarily mean abandoning the global policy. Instead, sophisticated multinational governance often works through layers: global principles, regional requirements, local implementation. The organization might establish a global baseline while documenting legitimate local deviations. And that last word is important: documenting. Because when exceptions exist, organizations need to know why they exist, who approved them, and which entities or jurisdictions they affect. Question 3. Let's continue. A subsidiary belonging to a multinational corporate group may have governance responsibilities that are separate from those of its parent company. The answer is fact. This is extremely important. A subsidiary may belong to a larger corporate group while still being its own legal entity. Depending on the jurisdiction and corporate structure, its directors or managers may have legal and governance responsibilities relating specifically to that entity. That means group leadership cannot always treat subsidiaries as though they are simply departments inside headquarters. Local boards may need to consider the interests of the subsidiary, regulatory obligations, solvency, conflicts of interest, local stakeholders, and their own statutory duties. Good multinational governance therefore has to recognize both group oversight and entity-level responsibility. Question 4. Pay attention to this one. The more centralized a multinational company's decision-making becomes, the stronger its governance automatically becomes. The answer is fiction. Centralization can improve consistency, but more centralization does not automatically mean better governance. Imagine headquarters requiring approval for hundreds of decisions across dozens of countries. What happens? Decisions may slow down. Headquarters may lack local knowledge. Important issues may become buried. Local management may stop taking ownership, and governance can become a bottleneck instead of a control system. The real objective is to determine which decisions should be centralized and which should be delegated. Strategic decisions might belong at group level. Certain regulatory decisions might require local authority. Operational matters might be delegated even further. Strong governance therefore depends on clear decision rights, not simply centralized control. Question 5. We're halfway there. Corporate governance can be affected by cultural differences even when every country follows the same written policies. The answer is fact. Governance doesn't exist only on paper. It exists in human behavior. Imagine the same escalation policy operating in two countries. In one office, employees may feel comfortable challenging senior management immediately. In another, strong respect for hierarchy may make employees reluctant to question senior colleagues. The policy is identical. The behavior may be completely different. Communication styles, attitudes toward hierarchy, consensus, confrontation, authority, and risk can all affect how governance actually operates. That's why multinational organizations need to think beyond, do we have a policy? They also need to ask, does this policy work in practice across our organization? Question 6. Let's raise the difficulty. A multinational company can sometimes impose an internal governance standard that is stricter than the minimum legal requirement in a particular country. The answer is fact. Legal compliance is often the minimum, not necessarily the organization's desired governance standard. Suppose one jurisdiction requires relatively limited internal controls. A multinational organization might nevertheless maintain stronger controls because its global governance framework requires them. Why? Because organizations may want consistent standards for ethics, risk management, cybersecurity, financial controls, third-party oversight, conflicts of interest, or data governance. Provided the internal requirement itself does not conflict with applicable law, the organization may establish a higher standard. This creates an important governance principle. Legal and well-governed are not always identical concepts. Question 7. This one catches people off guard. If headquarters makes all important strategic decisions, local subsidiary boards may still have meaningful governance responsibilities. The answer is fact. A local board does not necessarily become irrelevant simply because the parent company controls the broader corporate strategy. Depending on the entity and jurisdiction, directors may still need to exercise appropriate judgment and oversight. They might oversee matters involving local regulatory compliance, financial health, risk, conflicts, significant contracts, capital, management, statutory obligations, and major local decisions. This is why multinational governance structures need to distinguish carefully between shareholder control, group strategy, management authority, and board responsibility. Those concepts overlap, but they are not necessarily the same thing. Question 8. Stay focused. Delegating authority from global headquarters to regional or local management means headquarters gives up responsibility for overseeing how that authority is used. The answer is fiction. Delegation is not the same as abandoning oversight. In fact, effective delegation usually requires more clearly defined governance. The organization should understand who can decide, what can they decide, within what limits, what must be escalated, what must be reported, who monitors the outcome. This is where tools such as delegation of authority frameworks, approval matrices, reporting structures, and escalation procedures become extremely important. A multinational organization cannot realistically have headquarters make every decision. The goal is therefore not to eliminate delegation. The goal is to make delegation controlled, visible, and accountable. Question 9, almost there. A multinational company can comply with the laws of every country where it operates and still suffer a serious governance failure. The answer is fact. This is one of the biggest misconceptions about governance. Compliance and governance overlap, but they are not identical. A company might technically satisfy applicable legal requirements while still experiencing poor oversight, weak accountability, ineffective challenge, unmanaged conflicts, unclear decision-making, inadequate risk escalation, poor corporate culture, or ineffective internal controls. Governance asks broader questions. Who has authority? Who is accountable? Who provides oversight? How are risks identified? How are decisions challenged? How does information reach the right people? Passing a compliance test does not automatically answer those questions. Question 10. This is the final question, and it's the one that surprises most people. The ultimate goal of multinational governance is to make every subsidiary, region, and country operate in exactly the same way. The answer is fiction. The objective isn't necessarily uniformity. It is controlled consistency with appropriate flexibility. And that distinction matters enormously. Imagine a multinational operating across 40 countries. Its organization may share the same values, the same governance principles, the same risk appetite, the same ethical expectations, and the same overall strategic direction. But implementation may legitimately differ. One jurisdiction might require a particular board structure. Another might impose specific worker representation requirements. Another may have different privacy obligations. Another might require specific regulatory reporting. And business conditions themselves can differ dramatically. So effective multinational governance isn't about forcing every part of the organization into an identical operating model. It is about establishing a common governance architecture while identifying where local variation is necessary, authorized, and controlled. Think of it this way. Global principles establish the direction. Governance frameworks establish the boundaries. Delegated authority establishes who can act. Local implementation addresses jurisdictional reality. Oversight connects everything together. The strongest multinational governance systems therefore don't eliminate complexity. They make complexity governable. All right, how did you do? Drop your score in the comments. And be honest. 10 out of 10? You definitely know your governance. 8 or 9? You're ahead of most people. 6 or 7? Not bad, but multinational governance managed to catch you a few times. Below 6? Now you know something you probably didn't know a few minutes ago. And that's the point. Hit like. Subscribe to Governancepedia. And come back for the next Fact or Fiction Governance Challenge. Because governance isn't just about policies, committees, and rules. It's about understanding how organizations actually make decisions, manage responsibility, and maintain oversight. And in a multinational company, that becomes a whole different challenge. Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and stay ahead.